Excellent. Well, we're live, and thank you very much, Michael, for joining us. And good morning, everyone. It's great to
Mhm.
be here today with a very special guest, Michael Gilbert, with whom I have interacted in quite a few occasions with students. He's leading an initiative that is of utmost importance for the CUNY School of Professional Studies, and that is the Black Male Initiative. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the initiative with Michael today. But before we even do that, Michael, maybe you can share with our audience a little bit of your story, how you got into higher education,
Sure,
what motivates you to particularly lead this initiative, and then we'll talk about what it entails and how it helps students.
sure. Great day, everyone. And I say great day on purpose. My name is Michael Gilbert. I'm the program coordinator for the Black Male Initiative Project at the School of Professional Studies. I was born and raised in the Bronx, uh, attended Taft High School, um, grew up in the Webster, Morrisania area of the Bronx. So you can only imagine how it was at the time. I was surrounded by support from my family and administrators at school throughout. And it was that support that basically led me to nearly a 20-year career in both the higher ed and nonprofit sectors. If it wasn't for that support, as an undergraduate student, I wouldn't have graduated. If it wasn't that support as an undergraduate student, I wouldn't have been as involved in student activities as I was. So as a result, um, I'm now in a position where I'm in the process. I'm earning my master's degree at SUNY Stony Brook in higher ed administration. My aspiration is to continue to be of support to those who are pursuing their higher education as it was for me. D. Pierce, I can't hear you if you can hear me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hear
My
me now.
apologies.
Yep.
I was saying that it always is fantastic for me, and I'm glad to hear that members of our community are pursuing graduate studies. So I'm glad that you are doing that as well, and congratulations on that path. And I'm sure you're going to be very successful. I have seen you in action, and you definitely connect very well with the students, and I sense that they respect and appreciate you a lot. So why don't we talk a little bit about what BMI is? Maybe you can tell us a little bit of what the initiative, how it got started, and what does it do for students at the CUNY School of Professional Studies.
Sure. BMI stands for the Black Male Initiative. Um, from from a historical standpoint, in 2004, past Chancellor Matthew Goldstein convened a group of administrators to address the inequities of underrepresented populations and the resources they may be lacking to persist and ultimately graduate throughout the higher education sector, particularly at CUNY. Through that conversation, BMI was born. Um, in addition, uh, in addition to that, as I would call a school session in football terms, um, BMI projects are now across uh, nearly every 2-year and 4-year institution um, across the CUNY system. In particular, at SBS, we started out as wanting to be a support from a cultural competence standpoint for those young people, students overall, who are pursuing degrees within the STEM field. We
Mhm.
ultimately opened it up to include everyone, whether it's the STEM fields, whether it's human relations, whether it's youth studies, for obvious reasons, so forth and so on. As a result, we opened up um, the obvious diversity of our student body. And from as of spring 2022, we've been open for business, if you will, and not business in a literal sense, but the 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 communal aspect of business in terms of ensuring that not only our students enter SBS but also graduate. So the supportive The supportive structure from a mentoring standpoint in which we set up here at SBS is particularly important because of the peer-on-peer relationships that are developed within our student body, each one teach one mentality. So it's one thing for you and I to share with students why we think it's important to fill in the blank, but as we both know, it's another thing for among their peer group to help them navigate throughout the system. So that's our ambition with CUNY BMI overall, and particularly at SBS.
Now, maybe you can share with the audience a little bit of who who participates in the initiative, either as a mentor or mentee. What do you think is the biggest value that this relationship brings to both parties? I think both the mentors and the mentees benefit from this initiative. So maybe you can expand a little bit on it.
Absolutely. So students across majors are eligible. Of course, undergraduate majors in particular are eligible to apply to become mentors and mentees with BMI SBS in particular. What's unique about uh, the undergraduate experience is obvious. It's the introduction, right, to
Mhm.
your scholarly attainment. So, as I stated earlier, it's only beneficial for the message that we highlight to mentors, for those mentors from a peer-on-peer standpoint to highlight, to their peers as well. Where's your office? Where's academic advisement? Which class should I take first? The professor, I should take it. It's not about who likes this professor, for example. But again, navigating the system, how to climb that mountain, how to do that on a community level. So the fact that we open it up to students across every major and those individuals who may have a professional background coming into it, because we realize that students within our youth studies program and so forth may have some professional experience, it makes it that much more of an awesome experience for everybody involved. Because again, the more that our students realize that there's a community within the community in which they're there for each other and they can reach out to answer, whatever question that may want to be answered on an institutional level. Our mentors are not the experts per se, but they can say, come to Michael Gilbert if you need something in particular. They can point them towards the advisement office if they have a particular question about a course as well. So it's not so frightening administratively for that student who comes in, whether they come from a 2-year institution or not, because at the end of the day, they're coming to a new institution with the same values, of course, right? But it can be scary when you're trying to adapt to something new and you're not familiar with. So why not let that hand be extended by someone who's been through it same as they have?
Yeah, and sometimes we forget that some of the students who come to our school and other CUNY schools don't have the role models at home that have gone through college education.
Yes,
Many of them are first generation students, correct?
yes,
So things that we sometimes take for granted, things like how to better use the accessibility of professors during office hours, for
yes,
instance.
yes,
I taught for 7 years at Ostos Community College, and I constantly encourage our students, my students in the classroom, to come to the office hours and share their doubts or share their aspirations. Faculty members, particularly at SPS, I notice are very committed to students and are able to provide advice in all sorts of, not only their discipline and their profession, but in all sorts of topics about life, about pursuing graduate studies, about employment opportunities.
yes,
But as you said, having a peer,
yes,
having another student share that information is something that is very well received by the mentees and something that is so necessary. So, Michael, maybe you can tell us a little bit of what are some of the principal barriers or factors why some of our, particularly the male black students, do not complete their studies. We know this is not an issue in New York. This is a
right,
nationwide issue. The population of male students has declined in the last few years,
yes,
actually in the last couple of decades, and particularly students of color. Black
Right.
or Hispanic or other uh, students of color, they start uh, with a lot of ambition, a lot of energy, but something happens on the
Yes.
way. So maybe you can share for the audience what are the major barriers and how can we work towards limiting or minimizing them.
Well, I've learned throughout the years that persistence is a loaded term, right? Because it can mean different things to different people. But as it pertains, as when you look at persistence and you place it side by side to scholarship, it is a common thread, right? Scholarship is a combination of what we learn inside or outside the classroom, in my humble opinion. So I've come to understand that a combination of time management can be a barrier for some of our male students. Learning how to manage their time. How could I work? How could I pursue scholarship and take care of my family at the same time? I've come to find out that, and this is through talking to students throughout the years, in addition to SBS. So not only time management, but also the wherewithal and the persistence, right? We just talked about
Mhm.
that. Do I can I do this? Do I have the patience, to do this within a certain amount of time? Um, what questions do I have? They may come to folks like you and I and ask
Yep.
particular questions and assume that because we are in a certain stage in our lives that we may not understand what their struggles are. But as you and I both know, it's about that time, that patience, that particular affection that we have with our young men and students overall. That is our hope, folks like us, you and I, that by the time they leave our offices, they'll have those questions answered. They'll be motivated to persist. We will align them with an administrator that will assist them with the time management process. And once they begin the process of painting that canvas, if you will, they'll begin the process of seeing that picture that they aspire to paint for themselves. So just extending that opportunity to become the leader, the student they aspire to become, once they know what's expected of them and of themselves, first and foremost, once they enter our halls, then hopefully they'll gather a firm understanding. But that's been my experience overall. But it's opportunity.
Yep.
Once they
Yep.
know that it's there, they will reach out for it. They will absolutely reach out for it, because you and I both know how many students have we come across, particularly our males, and you let them know of an opportunity and they simply reply, I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah.
now,
Yep.
now
Yep.
you know. Let's do something about it. Walk with me. Let's find out together.
So that's a great segue to my next question. Um, Today we're being listened to by different members of the community and even potential students who might join SPS. So if you have a message for, say, members of the community, like faculty, like staff, who are listening to this conversation today, what would be your message? What would be your ask of those faculty members and those staff members? How can they support the Black Male Initiative?
To my colleagues in particular, I firmly believe that we all operate under the assumption that ideas are the beginning of all achievement. Let's sit down. Let's talk about how we can get our young men, our young people into institutions such as CUNY SBS in particular, so that they could begin the process of becoming the leader that they aspire to become. Let's start that process firmly. I'm available anytime. I'm available day or night to have that conversation. I'm a firm believer that it starts at the door. I've stated that throughout my career. I would share with any colleague, I would share with any student. It starts at the door, which is why ideas are the beginning of all achievement, which is actually a quote by Bruce Lee, of all people. So the the faster we plant that seed, if you will, the faster that we will put ourselves in the positions to succeed and ultimately extend the service to our students, particularly our males, that will project to them that not only we are here for them, but SUNY SBS in particular is a place that they can obviously shine and graduate at the end of the day.
Fantastic. And let me tell you, I've been right now, Michael, maybe to two or three of the sessions that you have organized with students over the last year or so. and I must confess, it's one uh, of my preferred events of the year. Talking to students, listening to what their preoccupations are, but also their aspirations. Interacting with them, I come every time. I come more and more energized. Every time I participate in one of those meetings, I come more and more energized because I see the talent,
Mhm.
I see the energy, I see the commitment, and that's what CUNY SPS is all about, right? Giving,
Absolutely.
particularly giving adult learners that opportunity. Many of our students, as you know, work full time, so they need the responsibility, the support, since they have responsibilities with family, job, maybe more than one job. Some of them work multiple jobs. It is essential to have this opportunity for them to interact, particularly in an online environment, having
Yes.
that sense of community. And I think that's what you do very, very well, Michael. We do have a question or a comment coming in. On the comments, it says, "Hi, thanks so much for sharing. To your point of planting the seed, is there a connection or a partnership between this program and high schools to reach them earlier?"
Yes. So I'm glad we have that question. So our uh, our central office, our BMI central office, which is led by Dr. Jonathan Cross. We have extended a number of relationships through MBK, my brother's keeper, for
Mhm.
example, to build bridges between our program and high school students as well. So that's one of a number of initiatives that we have going on to build those relationships with our young people who are first generation coming out of high school as well. As we all know, the college and university structure being the melting pot that it is, the uniqueness of SBS having adult students on a virtual online community, I think makes us tailor made to build the so-called, I say so-called, depends on how you look at it, the master student.
Yep.
So whether it's extending our hand towards MBK, whether it's building a relationship with a trio program, the list goes on and on. We can't do it without you. So if whoever is asking that question, we can have your information. I will make sure it gets to our university director, Dr. Cross, and we will reach out to you.
Great. And the question was raised by Claudia. So thank you very much for that question. And we'll, as Michael said, glad to provide more information offline on what all those partnerships are, which leads me to a question that is critical. What is the best way to learn more about the Black Male Initiative, Michael?
Sure. So on SBS's website, if you go to our student life area, we have the BMI Urban Male Scholars Initiative, and that page outlines the process of how one could become a mentor or a mentee.
Mhm.
Please attend one of our programs. Dean Pierce has talked about the programming that he has been involved in. We have an all program meetup in which our mentors and mentees meet periodically. But we also have uh, uh, two programs in particular, one called Inclusive Conversations, in which whether that topic comes from a student or from yours truly, we talk about a particular topic, and to use that phrase again, builds bridges between our student community, and on a basis of scholarship. And what I mean by that is, for example, one particular conversation we had was regarding the midterm election.
Yeah.
Can you
Mhm.
imagine that conversation, regardless of your ideology? But that conversation was a particularly cool one because at the end of the day, the students involved with that call understood the importance of voting as it pertains to practicing citizenship.
Yep.
Nothing like
Mhm.
having a conversation like that. Another conversation that we have is called a fireside chat. So that's an open forum for everybody and anybody to come and talk about X topic. And I know that's a form of respect because that's the culture that we're building first and foremost. If it's not of a culture of respect, then we're not building a basis for scholarship. And that's what we do with the fireside chat. So those are two opportunities for folks. And I invite staff and students to be involved, and we post that information on our student life site as well. But the last thing, if I may, Dean Purist, is the old fashioned way, as I would call it. Tell a friend to tell a friend. If you happen to know who we are, if you know someone that could benefit from this experience, tell your friend, tell your peer. If you see someone struggling, guide them to the right place and let them know that there are officers, individuals such as us, that are here for them and about them. And that's always been the best frame of reference, in my humble opinion, as well.
Word of mouth, you said it. It's the best form of publicity money cannot buy, right? Because
Absolutely.
it's trusted by the students, it's trusted by the community. So I'm so glad of your work, of your leadership, Michael. Where can, if anyone is interested in reaching out directly to you, is there any preference how they can get in touch with you to maybe volunteer
Sure.
or learn more about BMI? Or participate in any of the fire chats or
Sure.
any involvement that they would like, because I imagine that the more the merrier, right?
Yes, absolutely.
The more members of
Absolutely.
the
Come on,
community
come
who
on.
want to get involved, the better, right?
Yes, come on, come on, please. This is the community that we aspire to build, and we will build with your participation. If you have any questions, if you'd like to be a part of this extended community outside the classroom, if you will, please email me at michael.gilbert
Okay,
at cuny.edu. That's MICHAEL.GILBERT at cuny.edu.
excellent. I'm putting it on the chat right now. Let me know if you see it, if that is correct. Michael.gilbert at cuny.edu. Perfect, and that's the best way to get in touch with you, Michael. Any final recommendations, suggestions, or any words of wisdom you would like to share with our audience before we conclude for the day?
Yes. Again, do remember that ideas are the beginning of all achievement. If you wake up this morning wondering how I can be the best, that is an idea. If you wake up this morning, be thankful, obviously. But please put that idea into action. Write it down. Write it down and brainstorm a plan to obviously put it into fruition. And if part of that plan involves returning to school after a period of time, I would hope that it's SBS. Reach out to our admissions reps and become part of this community, because I guarantee you, you will answer your questions once you start the process of becoming a leader that you aspire to become. So I thank you for your time, Dean Purist. I hope that this opens up an avalanche of support and questions, because that's what it's about.
Thank you, Michael, for your leadership, for your commitment. We are much better as a community because of you and what you do with our students. I see some comments on the comment section thanking you for the time, for the opportunity to learn more about BMI. Mike, in particular, quite excited about your Bruce Lee quote. So keep it going. It's as always a pleasure to see you, to talk to you, and I look forward to the next fireside chat where
Yes,
I can get the opportunity to talk to students. So have a
yes.
great rest of your day. Enjoy. Thanks again, Michael,
Thank
and
you.
we will see you in the next one. Thank
Yes.
you, everyone.
Take care.
Have a great day. Bye
Take care,
bye.
folks. Bye bye.